Didn't take long, did it? Did not take long for people to start inventing stuff. But that's what the transfer window is all about, inventing news, getting the clicks, getting the likes, getting the retweets. We're going to be here today to debunk some of those bits of information and, of course, talk about some of the information that is definitely a lot more credible. So let's crack on with it. Now, with this information, the first part I want to start on is the Aouar situation, because I know that's what a lot of people are very, very interested in right now, is Houssem Aouar. Now, it is very, very common knowledge that Arsenal and Lyon are still in the situation of sorting out a deal. And last night it was reported that Arsenal's bid of around 45 million euros was going in with the add-ons to make it around 50 million, and that is a very acceptable price for Aouar and for Jean-Michel Aulas as well at Lyon. And of course, you look at if you are an expert member, which, by the way, I should say a massive thank you to those of you that are expert members that have helped support the channel. On yesterday's exclusive piece of content, I had a chat with GFFN's chief features writer Adam White, who is very much in the know about all these things, and he talked to us about Aouar, and we talked about the price. And I will keep most of that secret because, of course, it is exclusive content for our members, so make sure you tune in for that. But 50 million euros is certainly something that is a lot closer to what Aulas would like and would be open to selling the Frenchman for. And I think that has then led to a lot of people to just get a bit lazy, is the way I would put it. And I've seen that some reports come out today, unfortunately, that are just a little bit wide of the mark by this point, is that whether that deal has been agreed or not, it certainly hasn't come out to the media yet. It certainly hasn't been out to the main people that you know that you can trust. And I think that what you need to think about this Aouar deal is that it looks like it is going to happen at some point, hopefully this week. Of course, Aulas set that deadline of a Friday, and you'd hope it would get done by then. And Arsenal's ability to negotiate better, especially with the sales of some of their players, hopefully happening. We'll discuss that in a second. But just be careful is all I would say when you're looking through your social media and seeing some reports of saying like exclusive. Aouar has agreed, or Arsenal have agreed a deal with Lyon. Aouar has certainly kind of sorted out his stuff with Arsenal. That's not in question. It's all to do with Arsenal's situation with Lyon. So be careful is all I would say when you're looking into those reports. The other bit of fake news that you may have seen coming out today is about Ainsley Maitland-Niles, our boy Mainsley. Let's have our members put in those Mainsley emojis in the chat. When you're looking at what that is, Arsenal to sell to Manchester United, a player that has been played a considerable amount this season and towards the end of last season for Arteta in big games, doesn't make much sense. I get the idea behind selling Mainsley and then, of course, looking at reinvesting that money into a player that would do us a lot better. But selling Mainsley for 20 million euros to a rival who could be worth significantly more in a couple of seasons if he continues to play and continues to get picked in the national side as well would just be such a mistake, such a mistake. But that's not the reason why it's not true. The reason why it's not true is because, well, it's not true. Both Arsenal and Manchester United have briefed people and they've come out and said that it's not the case. You haven't seen that publicly, but that is the situation. It's not true. It's not real. It is just speculation at this point. Who's to say that Man United won't come in for Mainsley in the future? But it's not the case right now. That is for sure. So just cool down. I know that I felt like a little bit earlier when I was tweeting out saying that Mainsley is not going to Manchester United. It may have seemed a bit like I was trying to will it into existence with the pain of him possibly leaving. But don't you worry. It's, it is what it is. Clubs are going to, certain people on social media are going to try and report certain things, but this certainly is not true. Now, let's move on to some of the things that are more credible going on right now. The first one is Kolasinac. Kolasinac looks like he is going to be moving off to Bayer Leverkusen, supposedly a 10 to 12 million euro deal with Arsenal, including, not including add-ons, has been agreed. Now, if we'd have got 10 million quid for Kolasinac, I'd have been very happy with that. When you consider the fact he's on 100 to 120,000 pounds per week wages, to get some money on top of that to move him on is also really good. We got him for free from Schalke a few years back, and so to make any profit on that is still good business. Arsenal have notoriously lost money on a lot of their players. Well, if we're going to sign players for free, it's quite nice to know that we're going to be making some money off of them, isn't it? So the fact that we can make 10 million quid-ish, just under that, plus get 100 to 120,000 pound per week wages off of our wage bill is going to go a long way to help Arsenal make some moves in the transfer market this season. I mean, 100 grand per week is looking at an extra 5 million a year off what Arsenal would be spending. So that's a really good deal for Arsenal, that if Bayer Leverkusen, in the end, it looks like things are moving very swiftly with that, and we can expect to see the Bosnian move on this week, then I think it's a really, really good bit of business to do that. Then have a look at the other piece of information, which is on Matteo Guendouzi. Now, whilst communication between clubs and Guendouzi has happened throughout the summer, believe it or not, there has been discussions going on between Guendouzi and clubs, but the Frenchman just has not been interested in quite a lot of the options that have come forward. Villarreal were a big one back throughout the summer, and effectively he was just like, nah, not having any of that. Of course, Villarreal is managed by Unai Emery, and there's that link between those two there, and he brought him into the club. But yeah, no, that's just not happened. The latest sort of thing going on at the moment is Marseille. You may have seen that on some more of the credible things on social media today, Marseille being that team, but a deal for that still looks incredibly unlikely. They want a loan. A loan for Arsenal only gets the Frenchmen's quite low wages at this stage off their wage bill, and they would much rather see a permanent or an obligatory fee being paid for Guendouzi, and one that was definitely worth probably not his player value, because the situation that he's in, you're not going to get the 20 to 30 million pounds that Guendouzi is probably worth, and if you are going to sell him, it's probably going to be the upper teens, the 18 million sort of range for Guendouzi at this stage. And that's a shame, because maybe he would be worth a lot more. Tom also points out that Marseille do not have much money right now, hence why a deal is exceptionally unlikely, and they would be pushing for a loan deal amongst anything else. They are not going to be flushed with cash right now to make any sort of deal happen, hence why I'm probably expecting Guendouzi to still be an Arsenal player this season. And that's a shame, because I think that it would have been good for Arsenal to move him on. Everything has been done to try and move Matteo Guendouzi on. He has been offered around like a market, but just the teams that are interested, he's not interested in that. The club's not interested in sort of loan deals either. And for that reason, Guendouzi will probably end up staying at the club this season. And that means he's going to be at the club for a year, probably isn't going to play much, if at all, because of his situation. If things turn around, if he apologises to Arteta, then we might see movement, maybe in terms of playtime on the pitch. Other than that, it's going to be waiting until January until we see Guendouzi possibly moved on. So that's the information regarding Guendouzi. It doesn't look like he's going to be going. There is interest in him. I just don't think Arsenal are going to let him leave for anything other than a permanent deal, or at least an obligatory purchase. If they do, it's just because they realise getting his wages off the bill are probably the best plan for the club this season. So yeah, there was one question in the chat box I saw about Balogun. Rodney says, is Balogun still going? There was interest from Sheffield United. There was a bid from Sheffield United. There was a bid from Brentford back in January. Both of those were seemingly rejected. Arsenal look at Balogun as a very valuable young asset at the club, even though he has not played any first-team football. They want, if he is going to go, to get a decent-sized fee for him. Otherwise, they want to see him try and sign a new deal and stay at the club and progress, because they do think he hasn't got a future here. He's certainly got the talent to have that future, but he wants minutes. And that's the thing with Balogun, is that he wants minutes on the pitch, and wanting that means that he is going to want a decent-sized move to a club which is going to give him those minutes. And he's then got the ball in Arsenal's court. Do they let him go? If they do let him go, they're only going to get a certain fee for him. He's got no Premier League experience, not even any first-team experience. And that will limit his market value amongst the clubs that would be willing to buy him. It's a big risk to sign someone like Balogun for over 10 million quid, but that's the sort of fees that are being touted around regarding Balogun. So whether or not he's still here, I'm not quite should require a decent bid. What I will say to you guys is that you really need to keep an eye on your socials for this week. And when I mean keep an eye on your socials, not just the random retweets or the random accounts that you start seeing say exclusive, because it's just not the case, unfortunately. Aouar news is off the mark. Mainsley news was off the mark today. well wide of it. Not sure where those reports came from, to be honest. Probably people looking for attention. They got it, unfortunately, and that's just the way it rolls. People are so desperate for information these days that it's very easy to get attention and clicks and likes and follows. But thankfully, what we've seen with some accounts this summer is when it turns out they don't actually have the info, is that people are a little bit more savvy and they are removing themselves from those situations of following them. So continue to do that. Christopher Fung says, Tom, is there a preview show later? Yes, there is. Of course there is. It's the day before a game, and of course there will be a preview show a little bit later on. I'm going to start my shift with 101 Great Goals very, very soon, and then after that shift finishes around 8 o'clock, I will be around to be doing a preview show then. So after 8 o'clock, between 8 and 9, you'll be getting your preview show for the Liverpool game tomorrow, of course. Let's get through some more of your comments before we wrap things up. JT says, what players do you think should be loaned out? Willock, Nelson, Smith Rowe? I don't think Smith Rowe should go. I think he needs to get minutes in the team this season. Nelson, definitely. And from kind of the information that's going through is that he wasn't very happy to not be in the Liverpool squad for the league game. That's kind of what is being whispered around. So, yeah, he wasn't happy at all that he wasn't in the squad for the Liverpool game. Willock, the thing about Willock is that he's liked by Arteta. And I think that means that you're going to see him obviously play on Thursday. Again, he played against Leicester in the third round, and he's going to get minutes this season. I don't think you'll see him go out on loan. But Nelson, certainly, I think, is a big, big chance of him going out on loan for this season. When you look at, he's got Pepe, he's got Saka, he's got Willian, all players that can play in that right wing slot, even ahead of him. It'll be interesting to see if he actually plays tomorrow. There's a chance that he may not even be in the squad tomorrow. So we'll have to wait and see for that one. Thank you so much for the love this recent Twitter interaction. I'm starstruck. Please do me a favour. I am a nobody. Alimi says, is Aouar in London now? You know, there was a funny video that came out, if you hadn't seen, that his agent supposedly was getting on a little bit of a private jet. So maybe that means that there are movements going on. There's no official talk so far of an agreed deal yet. So we'll have to wait and see if something breaks in the next few hours or so. Of course, something will break when I'm on shift, and then everything goes to you know what, and then I have to go scramble and get an article together. So that should be quite fun. So keep an eye on 101 Great Goals. Make sure you go follow them on Twitter, and the articles will be coming out there. A link is in the description for all the articles that I've written for those guys already. There's some interesting tactical stuff looking at Aouar and Partey, and actually I wrote a really good piece, not about Arsenal, but on Timo Werner and kind of him playing on the left. And you may have seen last night where the Spuds went and beat Chelsea, that he played it wide again. And whilst he did score, it's just not getting the best out of the German. Charlie says, I'd loan all three to Premier League sides for a decent loan fee, 100%. I think that when you look at the loan fees that are available at the moment, I think a lot of clubs can take advantage of them. Smith Rowe, I wouldn't. I think he's got a future in the first team, and I think I'd like to see him get as many minutes this season as possible. Willock, I'm more open to. Nelson, definitely so. ASN says, if by the end of the window there is no buy offer for Guendouzi, we should loan him. This has to be better chance of retaining value rather than rotting on the bench. I agree with you 100%, ASN. Deep House says, alternatives for Partey and Aouar. Unfortunately, the alternatives are slipping away. Sangara, you may have seen, left Toulouse and went to PSV. You've got Samara at Lille, whether or not that happens. But Napoli have supposedly made contact with the French club about Samara, so that could happen. Diawara, I haven't actually checked too much on the Diawara side of things. Just let me see if he hasn't actually moved on somewhere yet. The latest news regarding Diawara, Arsenal fans react as club could possibly sign Roma in swap deal, and that was 7 hours ago. Who's that to do with? Is that possibly Kolasinac? Maybe it's Guendouzi. I don't know. But Diawara is being linked again, so there's an alternative for him. In terms of Aouar, there's only one alternative I'd like to see to him, and that's Dominic Jobberslide. So thank you very much. Hello says 260 of us are watching, and you've only got 29 likes. Come on, guys. Let's get those likes up. Thank you ever so much for tuning in. Really appreciate all of you. Carter Stage says, are we really going to get both? One is maybe possible. Two is hard to trust Arsenal. I think that there's a good chance that what you'll see is that we could get one of them. I think one of them is very likely. I think we all know the Frenchman is probably the most likely of them. The issue is that I'd rather see us sign Partey personally, but I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think Partey is going to happen. Even if we move on those players, Arsenal are so strapped for cash right now that I'm just really struggling to kind of get my head around us going for both of those, especially considering the Partey release clause has to be paid in full up front. It can't be done in sort of staggered payments. I'm not sure if the issues around tax are still as true as maybe they were a while ago. I remember David Ornstein saying that tax has to be paid on top of it. I'm not actually sure if that is the case at this point in time. But if it is, then it means, of course, then you're looking at even over 50 million euros for Partey being paid all at once, which just is beyond what Arsenal are capable of, even with possible sales. Who knows? If we do manage to sell Torreira and Guendouzi, we've already sold Martinez. If we sell Kolasinac, if we sell Mustafi, Socrates, maybe. But that's a lot of business that needs to happen in the last 4 or 5 days of the window. And getting it done is going to be really tricky. Clive Palmer, absolute pleasure to have you in the chat, mate. Says Smith Rowe is a memory. Can't stay fit at elite level. I have a lot of faith in the kid. I know that he's got injury issues. I do. But I just think if you can keep him fit, supposedly I heard rumours of a new physio coming in, very highly thought of from Brazil. And that can have an impact. I know it doesn't seem that like it is kind of down to luck with injuries, but different treatments, different methods can help players. And I think that maybe if he was to get this new guy in, there's a chance that players could stay fit for longer. There's also equally as a chance it won't have a darn effect whatsoever. So it could be complete nonsense. But I really like the kid. I think he's got a big future. When I spoke to the head of football at Huddersfield, he spoke massively, wildly about him and saying how good he was. And I have absolute faith in those guys that know what they're talking about. Right, it's time to sign off and get on with the evening's work. So it's been a pleasure to speak to you guys, as it always is. And I will see you again very, very soon. And as always, up the Arsenal. Make sure you tune in for the preview show a little bit later on, about 8 to 9 this evening on Liverpool. Speak to you soon, boys and girls. See you later.